We have Shelly Ragle, who's the director of SPAR for the city of Shreveport. Good morning, Shelly.
Good morning.
You've got a lot of items on the bond issue for November that
Yes.
are critical for SPAR. Um, Top of your list, what are the most dire needs that you hope people will vote to support?
Well, sometimes, Aaron, I think people forget that SPAR stands for Public Assembly and Recreation. So we're responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of our city facilities. So we, too, are just as interested in those police and fire facilities that are in dire need of replacement or upgrades. And then next would be our convention center, and there's a project for municipal. Those two are economic drivers for our city combined. They generate about $106 million in economic impact each year. So, those are some of the top buildings. You get into, we have a rec center that needs a new roof. So you just kind of keep going with things that have critical needs.
Okay. You have your big girl panties on.
Yes.
Okay. We haven't done a good job maintaining the facilities we have now. Let's talk. Let's talk the police station. Let's talk the convention center. Let's talk Fairgrounds Field. How can you assure us today that we're going to do a better job taking care of the facilities that we have and the new ones that we're proposed to build?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. The police facility is almost a little more than 60 years old. I'm going to say nobody today still has the same air conditioning in their house that they had 60 years ago. We do. You don't.
Why didn't we replace it? Why haven't we had money and budget to replace that?
Aaron, that comes with priorities, comes with budget limitations, but I think our guys have done a pretty good job in the last, I can only speak to the last few years, of upkeeping that building. That's where we spend our most money in maintenance. And the great thing about replacing these antiquated buildings, it will bring these buildings up to current building codes, up to current ADA codes. It'll also save us on utilities, which will save us operational costs, which then instead of taking that money and dumping it into things that we just have to keep repairing, we can then be doing preventive maintenance instead of reactive maintenance.
Okay, Shelly,
So
not
it's
just
safe.
bringing things up to code, but let me ask you about, say, the restrooms at the police station.
Right.
Isn't the infrastructure, the piping, whatever's under the ground, the plumbing that you can't just call a plumber for, isn't that stuff that you can't get to basically without tearing that building apart?
Correct, and that's the same way with the air handlers.
Right.
The way it was built in a way that we have called a plumber. I do want you all to know
Right,
that.
but I mean, basically, it's so bad that you got to get rid of it because it's not practical to fix it. Is that correct?
Correct. You'd have to basically start over with that infrastructure.
Let's talk Fairgrounds Field a minute, Shelley.
Okay.
The Citizens Advisory Committee says this was not something they recommended or they presented to be put on the ballot.
The demolition, you mean?
The demolition of it. Whose idea was this first? Who was the first one to say, I think we need to put money in to tear this building down? Where does this start? Where did it start?
I think it started years ago, since it's been empty for 9 years. We began talking about, what do we do with Fairgrounds Field? So this has always been on a list for SPAR of, either we need to do something with it or we need to tear it down. Because it has now, what has happened is it has become an eyesore. I think then between, councilmen talking about their projects, they felt like an opportunity, I think, to say, okay, this is a chance to take care of Fairgrounds Field.
If it was a dream,
And the question.
if it was a dream on your dream list, what would you or the administration think should be there? What's up? I mean, if we're going to tear it down, what's up?
I think, what we have talked to several different developers. I was talking to one last year who loved that location. But again, they were looking at it saying this is going to be a cost. They couldn't make their return work. And so, I think that we're looking at things that would complement that area, the fairgrounds, Independence Stadium. So,
Like what?
Things that
Can you be more specific?
I can't be specific about what we've done, but only what I've done.
Okay.
And
what would you like to see there? Maybe that's the best way to ask you.
I think there's all kinds of opportunities I think about what if there was a hotel there that served the fair and Independence Bowl and things like that, a family entertainment area. There's all kinds of things that could go there that would then complement the state museum, that would complement the fairgrounds, that would complement Independence Stadium.
Can I ask you a stupid question?
No, stupid question.
I've been going over this bond issue. You know, I read all this junk. I know people don't think I do, but I do eventually when I have when I have no life. Riverview Hall Phase 2 renovation is included $1 million.
Right.
And we've done Phase 1. They've done a lot of work on the interior, but Phase 2 has some information about a roof. Why it seems odd to me that the roof is in Phase 2. If we've done work on the interior, we still need a roof? Why wouldn't the roof? You follow me? It sounds like the cart's before the horse.
Well, the roof isn't. This is our hope at preventive maintenance. Right now, everything's okay with the roof. We don't have any leaks. We don't have any problems. But we want to. It's getting old, and before it gets any older, and you got to remember, the 2011 bond issue was 8 years ago. So we've had 8 years between the time we went to the voters in 2011 and today. So, in the next 5 years, we need to be looking at replacing that roof. So this was really important to get it on there because we had made that investment. But 8 years ago, and even today, we're okay with the roof. But before we're not, this was a great opportunity to get that roof in a project.
Okay, you were here in the 2011 bond issue. You brought it up. Some of the things in that are still not done. What's the holdup? What seems to be the problem in getting those projects bid and the work complete in a timely manner?
Okay, I can only speak for Proposition 2,
right,
which included SPAR, fire, police.
About $26 million from 2011, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The last project to be done is Fire Station 8, and we'll be finished with Proposition 2.
The Corby's tennis courts are done?
Well, they'll be finished in January, but they're underway.
But that seems. Do you see where I'm coming from? That seems like that's 8 years. Why does it take so long?
Well, first of all, you have to sell the bonds, and if you go back and you look at, how those bonds for SPAR and for Proposition 2, when the voters approved the bonds, we set out a timetable or a timeline for what we wanted to get design money first. Then we would get construction. If you go back and you look at it, there was a big delay between those two in selling the bonds. And when that happened, that just pushed everything back. So, some of it's, in our control and some of it's not.
Will it be done differently this time?
I believe so. I think they've got a very good formula for selling the bonds. Same thing, though, Erin, you don't want to sell all your bonds before you need them because law requires you to use them in a certain when you sell them.
Right.
So we'll do the same thing. We'll set up. We need this much for design. Then we'll need this much for build, and there's a method. And I will say that, like for the tennis center, for instance, we didn't have that big a project in the 2011 bond issue. The 2011 bond issue for the tennis courts was only for ADA renovation.
$500,000. Yep.
But what happened was, the tennis CTA, the tennis community, and Corby's Park Foundation said, wait, don't do that yet. Let's see if we can raise more money.
Okay.
So things like that delay projects. And it's a good thing because our community is going to get a whole new tennis center funded not only by public dollars but private dollars.
Convention Center. I spent a lot of time there last weekend for GeeksCon.
Sure.
It behind the scenes, golly, that place is. You got hoses collecting water coming in from the roof to drip pans. You've got holes in the elevator. Will this bond issue take care of our convention center and get it where it is, beautiful? It looks beautiful from the outside. It's got pretty lipstick on, but man, it's got an indigestion of, oh man, it's bad.
Not only will this help take care of the roof, which is causing some of our issues, it provides some money to fix some of the things that you're talking about. Plus, the CAO and I, Sherika Fields, have been talking, the mayor, about how can we fund ongoing maintenance of the convention center. As I said earlier, it's an economic driver. It's the largest single investment that our community's made in a facility, and we need to figure out a way to have an ongoing maintenance fund for it.
Is the city the landlord for the Hilton building?
Yes, we not only the landlord, we own the Hilton.
Is something going on in that building that's under construction on, say, the 11th floor?
Yes,
What's that about?
they're doing some renovations at the convention center, and the great thing about the at the hotel. The great thing about the hotel is they've been able to fund all of theirs through their revenue.
Okay,
All their renovations.
one more thing that causes me massive panties in a bunch, and you can explain it. 1996, Shelly, you were just a toddler, probably.
Yes.
We voted on a bond issue. We voted down a zoo. We voted for the city to acquire land for the purpose of a park at Cross Bayou.
Right.
We don't have a park at Cross Bayou. You're in charge of parks.
Right.
What happened with that? Where is that money?
The money is still there. It hasn't been spent to acquire property, which that was strictly what that was for, not to make the park, just to acquire the property. And we've been doing that. Matter of fact, we just acquired another piece, and we've been trying to acquire all the pieces all across Bayou. I will tell you, sometime about 15 years ago, we looked at it was right after the convention center was built, about building a walking path that then connected you back to the trail on Clyde's Fan. We weren't able to do that because of the cost to shore up the bank. You see some work up on the upper part of the green space right there at Fannin that we did to try to connect the parkway back to the Hilton and the convention center. But just the sheer cost, that bond, that was just more than we had in our budget to develop a park.
Let me read this to you what was on the ballot. Okay? This is what was on the ballot. Authority to issue not exceeding $5 million of 20-year general obligation bonds of the city for acquiring and or improving lands for a public park.
Right.
That's what it said on the ballot.
Yeah, for acquiring land for a park, but not developing a park.
Okay.
So we have been doing that. And
All right.
I could give you a list of the things that we've purchased with that money.
That's just where we're out of time, and you gotta come in here so I can tie you to the chair one day, okay?
All right, I'll do it.
Shelly Ragle, I can't thank you enough for being so candid. We appreciate it and look forward to having you a guest soon.
All right, thanks. Y'all have a great day.